presentation. My name is Kalifa Oliver. I am an executive advisor, a coach. I head up employee experience analytics. I am an author. I have lots of years of experience in the EX space. I am focused on two major things: making sure that companies are both data-driven and people-centered, which is hard. But if you're here, you probably already know that it's hard, right? And so one of the questions you're probably going to ask at a CX conference is, why are you here? A major part is because we don't talk enough about the relationship between customer experience and employee experience, right? We talk about call centers and contact centers, but the truth is, if I don't feel valued at your job, I don't feel to value your customers. And if I don't feel valued and I need to give a good experience to the customers, then there's so much acting that I have to do, you have greater levels of burnout. So how do you do this thing? How do you take lessons from the customer experience side and build out a function that is people-centered and data-driven, where I tell people creating a positive employee experience does not have to be in competition with businesses making money. Remember that these people are the front line to your product, but they have already bought a product from you, which is what we call your employer value proposition, right? What I like to tell people is when you apply for a job or they apply for a job, you don't just throw the job description out there alone. Oh no. You put a whole preamble about your company values, company benefits. That's your employer value proposition. And you have to live it. And that's what you do when you want to create a better employee experience. And these days, a lot of our customers are looking at how employees are being treated to decide whether they want to buy your product, right? On top of that, many of your employees are already your customers. And they can tell the difference that they're having as an employee versus a customer. So these are the things as to why this is important. As we bring in more tech, the tech that we see for CX are really solving employee issues to create efficiencies and better customer experiences. Think about every product you see in here. Agentic AI is not just to help the customer. It is to produce a better experience by assisting the employee. So we kind of talk through what that means, and then I'll make the connection. So we'll have some fun. I'm gonna go fast, but we're gonna get this thing done, all right? So the employee experience is not about data, it's about people. We'll always hear about data. Everybody's gonna tell you about data. I love me some data. I'm in love with open text data, but it's about people, just like in the customer experience space. The best EX strategies that you have, they're gonna use data and technologies to enhance the experience, right? They focus on the human connection, right? If you wanna use a people-centered approach, you have to ensure that that technology is serving your customers and your employees. So data and human connection drive success in creating a meaningful employee experience. So people analytics is this thing you probably hear about a lot now. People analytics is simply this. It's a way to use data to better understand the things that are happening in your organization, specifically related to your people. Things you know and love: attrition, retention, sentiment, NPS scores, right? But they need to be, in order to be people analytics, it needs to do three things. It needs to improve the employee experience. That has to be the aim of the outcome. It has to help shape your culture, that EVP that you're putting out there. And it has to enhance business outcomes. And I want to really stress the enhanced business outcomes. If you are applying data to the organization and it does not connect into your employer outcomes, you're not using people analytics. You just have data for data's sake. It's fun for nobody except the person who's producing the data, okay? But you have to design a people-centric experience. And I know for many people, when I say that, it sounds expensive. How do I create this thing? How do I make everybody happy? I'm here to tell you the employee experience is not about happiness. It's about setting up people for success. And when you put it in that context, you have to begin every decision, every tool that you think about buying today, any program that you want to implement in your contact centers needs to ask the question, how will this decision impact a specific segment of your workforce? Put it at the beginning of your design before you buy, then ask it again. In fact, ask the question to the vendors as well, right? When we buy technology, we have a tendency to buy the solution without really understanding the problem. So when you go talk to vendors, when you think about new technologies, when you're using people analytics, ask, but how does this affect this group, this geography, this group of people? Maybe they're neurodivergent, maybe they're differently able, maybe they work remotely, maybe they're in a different location in a state. Always ask those questions and ask them because it will help you figure out what problem that you're trying to solve. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to figure out what is the experience I'm trying to create for my employees so that they can create an experience for my customers. So people-centered design requires you to focus on data insights. Notice I didn't just say data, okay? Because I know many people here have seen a dashboard and don't know what to do with all that data. You've seen an Excel sheet and there's just data in it. It must have an insight, right? And it has to ensure employee satisfaction and success remains at the heart of your initiatives. So if I'm sitting in a massive call center, I need to understand how I can succeed here. It doesn't mean I need to be happy today. You don't have to bring me pizza, I'm gonna eat it, but you don't have to bring me that. Do I have the resources, the tools? If I am introducing a new technology, does that set this person up to close the accounts, to make the sale, to be set up for success, to get that bonus? That's how you create employee experience. When you use data and people-centered design, you are leveraging data for insights. Insights are the things that lead to actions. If you are looking at data and you give data to a leader, or if you're a leader and you're looking at data and it doesn't feel like it's driving an action, it's useless. The example I often use is if you're driving a car. When you're trying to figure out how much gas you need, if you need gas at all, you just want to quickly look at the dashboard. It takes several systems to come together to show you that gauge level. Imagine if you had to stop your car, pop the hood, check the fuel tank, check your speed, check all that stuff. You're going to stay on that road. But when you're thinking about leveraging data and creating insights, it leads to an action, right? Also, it prioritizes employee needs. Needs is important. If they have to answer calls and their headset isn't working, and then you find out that your suppliers provide headsets that only work 50% of the time, that's data, that's an insight, it drives an action, right? It allows you to personalize communication, and that's new. But that comes from the customer experience space. Learning how, even though you have a huge group of people, you can still personalize their experience by understanding segmented needs within the same group. It's why if I'm on Instagram and my friend is on Instagram and we're both searching for dresses, but I'm searching for purple and she's searching for orange, all of a sudden our ads are personalized. We're not seeing the same ads. We're in the same space using the same tool but having two different experiences because it's tailored. And again, I want to stress this. It must set up employees for success. That is the key when it comes to employee experience. Don't tell me about happiness. That is a happy little accident. We want that, but it shouldn't be the goal, because happiness is subjective. It's setting up people for success. Are you setting up your employees for success? Because it's the only way you're setting up your customers for satisfaction. So, data can enhance human connection and drive engagement, but it is the people that truly matter. So how do you elevate the employee experience using data and technology? Employee listening. We know a lot about customer listening. We can do the same thing and apply the same technologies, deploy the same things. Feedback loop. Don't send data into a black hole of nothingness. Act on it. Don't ask the question if you don't plan to do anything with it. Right? Track it. If you do make a change, measure it. Then measure it again and track it. Right? We have lots of good tools for customers. Use those tools for your employees. Tech integration. Leverage technology to streamline your processes and facilitate accurate data gathering. One of the things I say a lot and hear a lot is AI. I love me some AI, but in many cases we find that AI is a solution that is constantly searching for a problem, because we do it backward, right? We say, oh, this is a cool product, and then we implement it, and we have no clue what we're solving, so now we're searching for the problem to solve, right? Technology fails, your $1 million investment now looks like it doesn't work, but it's not that the technology was bad. You didn't figure out the problem you were trying to solve. And in most cases, the reason you're here, we call it customer experience, but you're trying to fill the gaps by creating efficiencies in how your employees work in order to support your customers. That's what the agents are for. That's what the AI is for, right? So lots of us will do surveys. It's one of the easiest things that you can do in a massive contact center, right? Quick, bulk. You can do it anonymously if you need to. We're moving from surveys to insights, right? We have to think about our feedback culture. We're moving away from just annual surveys. We're having one-off surveys. There was one company I worked with where they started to ask on the time clock a question. So you were clocking out and there was a question. How satisfied are you? Did you have what you need? Continuous, right? Technology integration, and that's an example. Meet people where they are. Integrated technology. Do not make people have to switch between 17 systems to answer one question. Tech integration, right? There's passive and active listening. Surveys are active listening, but there are passive ways to do it. You look at how long it takes to be on a call. You look at what are people saying about your organization from an employee standpoint. Because if you don't listen, they'll still talk. And they'll find ways to talk on LinkedIn, on Glassdoor, on Indeed, on layoff.com, on Blind. People will talk. That is human nature. If you choose not to listen, somebody will. And that somebody might be the next talented person you need. And worse yet, your customers are listening to what is being said. There's an evolution happening. There's more technology in workplace communication. So think about agentic AI and personalization. There are cultural shifts happening in organizations where there's more open communication channels. Many of these vendors I'm seeing, they're creating ways to have more open communication channels. Employee engagement strategies, right? Now with those strategies that can enhance how you're listening. You're not just listening one way, you're listening off of multiple channels to make sense, create context. And finally, feedback and responsiveness. Once you start hearing the things, you need to do something. I can't stress that enough. Once you start hearing the thing, you need to do something. That is how you create experiences. We do that for our customers. If 100 customers say our products don't work, we're going to do something. But if 100 employees say this tool doesn't work, are we moving as fast? So why is it important? A big problem people see, attrition and retention. When you listen, people feel heard. They're more engaged, they're more motivated, they're more likely to stay. Here is something I shared this morning about a lot of people who work in contact centers and in customer experience and customer service. They often feel invisible. For customers, they're a temporary person who either pisses them off or makes them happy. That's it. And then imagine that you're not feeling valued by your organization as well. So you're invisible to everybody. People want to feel valued. Imagine your own relationships if somebody's just not listening to you. If my husband keeps bringing me Chinese food after I ask for pizza night after night, I'm not talking to him no more, right? And that's how we deal with relationships. That's why it's important to not just listen but act. It will inform better decisions because you also build trust. When people trust you, they'll tell you. But you have to have that feedback part, right? Because until my husband brings me what I asked for at least 3 days in a row, I ain't trusting him no more, and I'm not saying anything to him, right? I am a dissatisfied customer. And it drives performance and innovation. And it is important because it has to tie to business goals. It has to tie. You're listening to them so that you can set them up for success. Take the noise out the way so they can focus on performance and innovation. Innovation happens when people can think. I can't think if I'm going through 17 different systems to solve one problem. I can't think. I can't innovate. I can't bring ideas, right? So employee listening fosters actionable connection between, important, people, the data, and the business. We have to connect it to the business. That's how we need to speak about the things we need, the AI, the technology, the tools, the data, the business. So if you want to implement a people-centered and data-driven EX strategy, it does not have to feel unreachable and impractical. You have to define clear objectives. Remember what I said. What are you trying to solve? Can you solve it? Is your business set up to introduce this technology? Have you defined the issue? Secure leader buy-in, which is usually one of the hardest parts. But again, that is why I stress, speak in terms of business outcomes. Use the data. Invest in training, a big miss for so many companies. I don't care how pretty and sexy that tool you bring in is. If nobody knows how to use it, it is useless. So you just spent a bunch of money on this thing, and it becomes nothing but statistics in a picture frame that you're going to put in a bag and put up in the attic because nobody knows how to use it. And if you got kids, you know how that feels when you went shopping for that Christmas present and now they're using the box, right? So nobody knows how to use it, right? Continuous improvement. Understand if this tool is still timely. Does it still work? Has anything changed? If you ever want a case study in this, it was during COVID, when you had to adapt and continuously improve. You have to be on your vendors about updating their products, understanding how they're training it, especially if you buy a product that's new. When it reaches maturity, what does that mean for you, right? How do you get supported? I always talk about this because this is the part we forget when we introduce technology, it's data ethics, right? The laws haven't caught up yet, but they will. And when they will, it's day one. Really important when it comes to mass surveys that go out, right? Because I always tell people, if you're a global company, Let's talk about GDPR for a second, okay? Many people think that if you make a mistake and say, well, this is an anonymous survey, and it just turns out that it's actually confidential, meaning that the data can be linked back to an HRIS system somewhere in the system. And somebody realizes that and reports that in like Belgium, right? You are not fined for one mistake. Let's say you have 4,000 people there. Let's say you have 4,000 people in all of Europe. You have a survey open on 4 weeks. You sent an invitation, you sent 3 invites and 1 right before it closed. All 4,000 that went out each time is a fine. You probably have racked up more fines than cost of the tool. So you always have to think about data ethics. You have to balance innovation with responsibility. Ask the questions. Many solutions are black box solutions. Ask, how are you training your data? On what data? How are you securing this data? How many breaches have you had? What are we solving, right? Those things are really important. So, transparency. Your employees have to know how the data is being used. Remember, trust. Trust is how you build good employee experience. Bias mitigation. They get better with time, making sure you're putting in the right data, right? How are you constantly ensuring fairness, continuous improvement, and privacy and trust? You have to intentionally build it. It might feel very annoying, especially if you've ever dealt with GDPR and dealt with putting in employee notices and stuff, but it's worth it because you're ahead of the laws. You have to do risk mitigation at the design stage when you're asking about people-centered design. So the future of HR, technology, and EX, lots of emerging trends that might seem familiar. Personalization, real-time data, predictive analytics. HR is always about 5 years behind. CX. Because you're in the CX world, you have a one-up. Because you see tools about 5 years before it comes over to HR. The role of privacy and ethics in AI-driven employee listening. Agentic AI, you think of all these things. That is going to be the future. These are going to be discussions. These are going to be laws. You might as well start talking about it now. And then you have to constantly prepare for the next wave of HR innovation tech. So you have to stay on it all the time. Again, my hint is, keep your eye always on the customer experience space. More money and investment. Companies tend to spend more money on that space, right? Then you can figure things out. We're all people, right? We act the same way on both sides. So the future of work is not about technology. It's about the human experience enhanced by technology. So I charge you, as you start looking for more technology, remember, it is about the human experience enhanced by technology, not replacing people, right? There was a time we thought about computers replacing us all until we are all walking around with tiny little computers in our pockets that we can't leave at home, right? It's just upskilling, new skills, right? So the AI revolution in EX, AI is transforming how they're engaging with employees, very similar to what we've seen in the CX space. We're moving from annual surveys to more real-time insights. Again, should feel familiar. And then we are starting to do better about connecting EX and CX, and that's why I am here, right? We've got to do better. So it's evolving. We're moving from traditional, which is what you probably still see now, into AI-driven approaches that will have more customizations, more real-time feedback. Remember, that's always good in the CX space where they're your front line. They know what's happening before you do. Sitting down there, they know they know which things aren't working before you do. So if there's a real-time way to report that and hear that, These things don't become surprises. These recalls don't have to be that big. These service issues can be corrected a lot earlier because there's more real time. They don't have to wait till once a year to tell you the thing. So, employee experience has evolved by applying customer experience lessons. I have come this far in my career because I am always peeking at customer experience. Always peeking. I'm always looking over the wall. Right? And I'm so glad to see the walls finally being broken down. Personalizations, real-time feedback, data-driven insights, and that now shapes how organization employees thrive. There's more transparency with the use of technology because it can help you build trust. Training for ethical use, but you have to empower those employees. Don't make them scared of it. Encourage them to use it. Even if they use it on their own time at home, just get comfortable with it. And again, adapt your AI based on customer feedback. That will also help your employees figure out where their own gaps are. So, to elevate the employee listening, technology acceleration, advanced analytics, and enhanced efficiency. We want to do better, we want to do faster, we want to be stronger, but we're not doing it at the expense of people, but by including people. To connect the employee and customer experience, engaged employees create better customer experience, and data proves it. AI innovations enhance operational efficiencies. Ethics foster trust, and trust fosters greater customer loyalty. Because I don't care if y'all didn't breach my data as a customer. Y'all breached y'all employees' data, I'm not coming. I'm not coming, right? Continuous feedback improves both experiences, right? And organizations that align EX and CX strategies will outperform their competitors. You know more, so you can do more and you can improve more. So AI is transforming your experience, not tomorrow. We talk a lot about the future of work today. Remember, AI is for people, not just processes. It should enhance the human connection, not replace it. It has to be responsible. And it has to be people first, AI powered, experience driven. That's where we're heading. That's where we are right now. And a final quote by Satya Nadella. Artificial intelligence is not a substitute for human intelligence. It's a tool to amplify human potential, creativity, and impact. Remember, people who are set up for success, when you use tools to take out the noise, they can think. If you can think, you can innovate. I think I'm on time. Thank you so much. If you're looking for me, you can do QR code. This is my book. I have business cards and I'll be around for a little bit. Thank you so much.